Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. My name is Andrew Romeo, and today I had Cary Gee joining me from BOTTY. Now, BOTTY is a business that has been set up to impact merchants globally. Now, what Cary has done is put together a piece of software that allows merchants to take payments through social networks like Facebook. Cary has a very interesting story. I was actually quite impressed with how he's gone about being a non-tech delivering technology. Cary originally started out as a business owner and entrepreneur in the space of restaurants. So Cary was a restaurant owner and had over 200 stores operating through Asia, where he eventually exited out of. And during that process, he began to realize that technology was really pivotal to his business. Before exiting out of the restaurant business, he began building a point of sale system for his operation. This point of sale system was built with his customers and really added some significant value to his restaurant chain. Through there, Cary learned a lot about technology. He then exited out of that point of sale business and then formed BOTTY, looking to impact merchants globally. This story talks about how you can actually shift and question your thinking around what can be done, what it actually takes for a non-tech to really dig in and understand how to work with technology and how to engage people along the journey that are technical that will help you through that process. Enjoy the podcast. Today we have Cary Gee on the line. Cary, thanks for joining us. He's from Perth. We're sitting in Melbourne. Cary is the founder of BOTTY. BOTTY is a merchant application, right? Helping
Yes.
merchants better sell in a social setting. Now, the reason why we've got Cary online is basically Cary's got an interesting story. Cary started out pretty much as a founder and co-founder of Asian Kitchen Group, so in restaurants, and now you've moved into technology. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on the podcast as well.
Yeah,
So
cheers.
it's all started. Yeah, it's all started because you saw the opportunity in the restaurant business in Southeast Asia.
Yes.
It was very interesting. We started off with over in Singapore. We had like 4 restaurants within 6 months,
Okay.
and through growing the chain, and then eventually growing to hundreds of stores, and then
Hmm.
having partners over in Japan, even having partners over in Philippines. It's all about the learning curve. So
Hmm.
immediately once you get into this restaurant chain, you see the potential growing in the region. You want to
Yes.
then learn from the best of the best, right?
Hmm.
So learning from the guys over in Japan is learning about automation, because in Japan, the Japanese has the very focused way of building automation, and also at the same time, with automation equipment,
Hmm.
automation in systems as well, and building very comprehensive operating system. So that's one part, and the other one was just learning from the McDonald's master franchisees, and
Okay.
through that you truly appreciate the why, how, and what, and how the software technology is driving even the hardware, which is then the business itself, right?
Hmm.
So that comes together as a hybrid model. So while we're growing the restaurant chain, I've been always trying to change how the POS system is being used.
Okay. So the POS system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
got really frustrated with it.
Okay.
So I don't know whether I should say this in the podcast, but I used to classify them as a piece of shit. So that, but
Yeah.
yeah, that I mean, I tried many ways, right?
Hmm.
I spoke to the guy who was reselling the solution to us,
Yes.
and I spoke to them and said, hey, look, can I pay, right? Can I pay to get customization done, right?
Yes. Yes.
And they go, Cary, we can't do that for you because uh, those guys who own the POS solution is not going to do it because
Okay.
it's just too troublesome, right? And
Hmm.
nobody, that sort of stuff. Those were the IT days, right?
That's a challenge, yeah. Yeah, back in those days, they had a platform, they had a piece of software,
Yeah,
and they were making good
yeah,
money
yeah,
out of it, and they didn't want to do anything else. So, yeah, no, interesting.
yeah. So that was that, and then so I persevered, right? So I was looking at the first I was using BlackBerry as a communication tool with all my employees, all the team members in different countries and all that, and that
Okay.
works very well because BlackBerry is BBM, right? So messaging back and forth, sending email real time, trying to get
Hmm.
communication, between teams in real time format.
Yes.
When iPhone launched, and thanks to Steve Jobs with the launch of iPad, we
Hmm.
saw the opportunity, and during then, because we sold part of the business to the Japanese company. So with
Yeah.
some of the funding in place, we then decided to hire 12 engineers and start building our own tablet-based POS system on
Okay.
iOS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So using that, so again, thanks to Steve Jobs with the creation of iPad,
Yes.
because the idea here is that why not have an iPad deploy as an automation tool, right? So as a POS system, as a kitchen display system,
Mm-hmm.
as a ordering management system, which then creates this full automation, creating visibility as well.
Mm.
The concept is really using the productivity tool, right, as a business operating system to then empower the operators in the store, right, to do a better job, right?
Mm.
So essentially creating better services, better product experience as well. So it's what today a lot of tech companies trying to do, which is then saying that, hey, look, uh, let the software be an enabler, right, for
Mm.
the operators in the business. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a hybrid model, right? So
Yes,
you have
correct.
software and human being come together. So we have done that, I think, like 4 years ago,
Okay.
and yeah, so building the platform, building the solution, and going to market and seeing how it drives top and bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
and then it drive a lot of happiness in terms of them, in terms of the team or the employees, right? So
So digging in a little bit on that, so just take it back a
mm,
couple of steps. So you hired
yep,
12 engineers. How did you approach that? Clearly, you're not a tech company. You were a restaurant business at that time. You had a POS
yep,
system, which you classified as a piece of shit. If anyone doesn't know what a
yeah,
POS system is, it's basically a point of sale system. So that helps you make your sales, basically take your orders from your customers and actually run that through. And obviously, you got your accounting components behind that, whatever else may be. So what was the step for you? So clearly you saw there was a challenge there. The iPad gave you an opportunity and a
yep.
way to deliver a different form of an POS system. When you made that jump, what did you do? How did you approach employing people? What did you do?
Yeah, so the first step was just doing a lot of research, right?
Okay.
So looking at the most advanced POS solution in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, the inclination was to look towards San Francisco and the US.
Yes.
Found a couple of those, and one of them was Square. But
Okay.
Square was just a very simple POS. It doesn't have the automation built in.
Mm-hmm.
So studied that, downloaded the app, studied the UI, the UX, and all those. That was even before hiring the engineering team, right? So it's
Get it.
just self-study, self-research.
Mm-hmm.
Then ask myself that question and say, look, what's the easiest software technology that's being built that is like you don't have to read a manual at all, right? So
Yep.
no manual required,
Mm-hmm.
but you can just go on and start using it. And then,
Mm-hmm.
then you start to realize mobile games, right?
Yes.
Games are such that it was built in a way that you can just download the app and
Mm-hmm.
start playing with it without having to go through a line with instruction.
Okay, so your
And
answer
and
to
the
that
match
question was games. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So gamification,
Mm-hmm.
right? So where does the word gamification comes from, right? It comes from games, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just an extension of the word, right?
Correct.
So having done that, started looking at friends and people connection that are in the game arena.
Okay.
So started talking to people that I know who who runs game company and all that. It
Okay.
started getting connected to like a CTO level
Mm-hmm.
who built games engine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Started talking to a few of them. So took a while, right? Because you just want to took about 6 months to find the right one person. Then
Understand.
cascade to the 12, right?
Get it.
So, but it's like a journey. Yeah, it's like a dating game, right? So you're dating your wife, and then like your wife to be. This whole journey that you go through until
Yes.
when you're very sure that they're aligned with what your goals are,
Okay.
then it helps.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's an important point you raised there, aligned with your goals. So, did they come on as co-founders to this new business, or were they employees to the new business that you were trying to find
Yes.
at this point?
So I brought them. I brought the CTO in as a co-founder.
Okay. Hmm.
You got to find the right
Of
person
course,
to
yes.
come in,
Hmm.
right? Then start building the team and start constantly. You just have to
Hmm.
repeat yourself. It's repetitive, right? You
Definitely.
just have to ensuring that what we're doing this it's about automation. It's
Hmm.
about empowering the operational team, and even getting the tech guys going down to the store and get them to use the traditional POS.
Hmm.
And then slowly after we start building phases, right? So we're not gonna the concept is always building bite size and rolling out them in bite size, right? And not
Understand.
trying to build the full solution,
Hmm.
right? So effectively you build around it, then you start building towards the whole product. I mean the product that it's put in place, right?
Yes, get it.
So getting the engineering team to understand how you use it, what's available in the market, what
Hmm.
we are building, and fronting the customers and using the solution themselves, having them to understand
Yes.
the kind of environment when you put a tablet in the kitchen,
Hmm.
right? Or where it should be, how big the buttons are, like that, getting them to understand, like, the
Hmm.
whole user experience, right? The buttons, the size of the buttons, the
Yes.
colors, and all that. Because we actually build a lot of automation in it. We even build load balancing, we build auto fire and all that, which is then saying basically it's more like once your main course is being served to the table, automatically it fires off the dessert as well at the dessert
Nice.
station.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's well a lot of understanding of the
Hmm.
requirements, and then tying between. So I basically become the
Get it.
product guy, right? So I'm working on, because I understand the
Yes.
operation very well. I grew from very
Hmm.
hands-on person, then look at the
Yes.
tech as well. Constantly just keep
Yeah.
evolving, right? I was traveling a lot during then as well, meeting out with partners in
Uh-huh.
different countries, and I was literally carrying 5 to 6
Oh wow.
tablets, right, in my carry-on luggage, right? And then during those days, they were always making you take out your
Yeah, you
your
have to put
tablets,
everyone in a separate
right?
box,
Today
right?
they said,
Yeah.
yeah, now you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So before I was, I always feel I always feel very funny. People looking at
Yeah.
me funny as well, because these guys will be putting out like 6 tablets, right? Like some reseller
Yes.
from China, right? Like buying iPads overseas, then going back to
Yeah,
China and
nice.
selling them. So I mean, gone through that whole
Yeah.
process. Every time I get into a hotel room, I get Wi-Fi, I connect to
Yes.
all the tablets. I start checking, like how the user experience is like
Okay.
in UI, and getting deployed. So I think that understanding the product,
Hmm.
understanding the user, like the user interface and
Yes.
user experience, and it's really
Oh,
very
it's hugely
important. Yeah,
important. So, and like you said, you would
yeah,
become the product owner. But I imagine you were talking to a lot
yes,
of your people in the restaurants, getting an understanding of what they needed. So I know
yep,
you knew the operations quite well because
yep.
you've. How long did you operate the restaurants for? How many years was that in total?
Well, I think we were in the restaurant business, two different
Hmm.
restaurant chain. One was being acquired, the other one then start off again, that
Yes.
got acquired as well. So we did that for about 15 years.
15 years. So you obviously knew what worked, what didn't, and had a real good understanding of operation. Did you talk to, for example, people just taking orders? Did you have those conversations? Did you go down that to that level? Yeah.
Yes, I mean you go down to the level of because it's a like in
Hmm.
even in Singapore back then, you have the older generation that's working
Yeah.
permanent part-time shift because they don't want to be fully
Understand.
retired, and you get this. So we call them the aunties
Yes.
and the uncles, and they will really come. They actually come up to me and say, so, "Hey, boss, thanks for
Okay.
building
Yeah,
this." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Because you really
brilliant.
help us, right? Because we can now sense the order
Yes.
immediately to the kitchen, right? And then we can just go to the next table and take the order for
Hmm.
the next table. And that way, orders are being fulfilled faster, customers are getting happier. It's like the whole ecosystem, right? And the ability to even say that, to put in little
Hmm.
automation where it says, if the table, doesn't have food within 5 minutes, do send an automated voice to the server that's serving the
Oh
table,
wow.
right?
Okay.
So
So you thought
it's
about
that
everything in
the
the whole process.
incremental of customer
Yeah.
service.
Yes.
Yes, like, so it's no different from what everybody
Uh
wants to
huh.
do now, right? With the whole tech being disrupting the brick and mortar business, right? We've done that before. It's all about
Yes.
customers
Hmm.
experience, right? Jeff Bezos from Amazon says
It
that very
does.
well, right?
Yeah.
It's about the customer
Yeah,
in the end.
no,
Yeah.
that's really, and one thing you mentioned there was about the whole ecosystem. So, building product, yeah, to solve an ecosystem is a very interesting way to play it because you have considered what it means to the customer as well. They're not even engaging with the application. You're empowering your servers to deliver a better service because the way the application works and delivers order directly from when they're walking around, even reports back to them as to what's happening. So that's a brilliant understanding of what the ecosystem is and how you're going to better impact the customer. Yeah.
Yeah, because with my mission and purpose is very much driven to one's a very simple DNA. It's called the inside out
Okay.
approach, right? If you can't empower and you can't enable, the people within your
Yes.
organization. There's no way you're going to do that outside the
True.
organization, right? So how do you translate that value
Hmm.
proposition? It has to be from inside out, and that's critical, though, right? I mean, a lot of people missed out that portion. They just keep looking at the you look at the customers. The customer is
Hmm.
very important, but who is the one delivering that customer service, the product
Yes.
as well, right? It's eventually the team,
Correct.
right? So empower the
Hmm.
team first, and then the rest will kind of fall in place as well. That, yeah. So that's how I
Hmm.
see it, and there's no difference when you look at Amazon as well, right? To have that quick turnaround, last mile delivery, like 2 hours and all that, you need to have the
Correct.
fulfillment center, you need to have the
Hmm.
automation in place and the technology in place, right? So it's the
Yes.
whole ecosystem that helps propel the
Yeah, and
possibilities,
that's
right? That you're
really,
trying to
and yeah,
achieve.
exactly what you
Yeah.
said there. The ecosystem delivers the better result to the customer. Amazon can't deliver
Yes.
that quick of a response without having the whole infrastructure there to deliver it. So yeah, yeah, no, very good point.
Yes.
I can see you're a big fan of Jeff. Jeff Bezos is. Yeah.
Jeff and
Yeah.
yeah, Jeff or
Yes.
Elon Musk and the
Yeah.
rest of the guys that go over
Yeah,
the
there are a
top,
few in
right?
our world, but we need them. They're inspiring and just people to look at, and basically get an understanding of there's different thinking out there, and the bigger you think, the better chance you have to deliver bigger outcomes. So that's, yeah, really good
Yes.
insights there around what you did. First step you mentioned was research,
Yep.
and I think some people can get a little bit sort of stuck on their concepts and ideas and just jumps right into it head first. But you took a really good step
Yep.
back and got an understanding of the marketplace. And I'm quite intrigued as to how you got to gamification. So I thought that was quite interesting how you got there and basically found that that could be an approach for you to actually improve the experience for the people using the application. So that's pretty cool. Um,
Yep.
so now, how long as were you operating this business, and does it still exist? What have you done with it?
Yeah, so what I've done is we gone on the second restaurant chain got
Yes.
acquired. Then that brought us into
Okay.
China, right? So during that stage, well, in
Yeah.
China, I saw the opportunity of what
Hmm.
WeChat is doing and
Yes.
Alibaba was doing, and the whole social commerce and super app and all those. So did so when we sold the business, the tech, which is then the
Hmm.
POS side of the business, that was being
Yeah.
acquired as well. It was being funded. So eventually, I realized that selling the POS is not
Hmm.
my thing, right? So I spoke to the founders, we got them funded, then eventually I
Okay.
exited from the business. That's where then it started. I started moving the family from
Yeah.
Singapore to Australia, and then the next thing that happened was then having traveling around and looking for, like, still very driven towards that whole enabling offline merchants, because you've done that yourself. You're
Yes.
being a business owner in offline business, running a
Hmm.
restaurant and retail, and then embarking into technology and seeing what you can do, and then you start looking at it and go, how can I build something that it can be global? How can I enable merchants
Get it.
globally, right? Offline
Mm.
merchants globally. That was a point where when I chanced upon the whole Facebook with Messenger with API and all those. So we started bidding on it. Got two engineers over in Thailand, started bidding the solution. We went live with the pizza company under Minor Group with 600 stores in less than
Wow.
3 months,
Okay. So
right?
you've
So
obviously had some experience building tech and building team in this,
yes,
and you asked a very big question there. So how can I impact merchants globally? And it's a pretty powerful question to ask. So it obviously intrigues the exploration for that. So did you take your technology team that you had building the pods, or did you go and rebuild? How did you approach that building a team?
no. So what I decided to do is just have a very diverse understanding, and
Yep.
it's sort of like a let's try to engage engineering team in different
Yes.
part of the world,
Yeah.
right? So let's not always go back to where you're familiar with. Let's go into something that is
I
that
like
is
it.
new, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah, and then that's where you appreciate, like, the local culture, like in
Yes.
Thailand,
Yes.
for example, right? Thailand, because of the previous
Hmm.
king, he believed in zero waste and all that, and they're very engineering
Yes.
driven, which explains why Toyota has got a
Hmm.
big factory over there. You have Japanese going there doing food processing. You have the Germans there doing, like semicon
Okay.
and all those. Like that, they are huge in engineering, and I really appreciate the mindset of the people as well because of zero
Yes.
waste. So they're always trying to optimize, right? And very smart people who are educated, overseas as well. So that gives me like appreciation of local
Okay.
talent. And so when we built that solution there. Eventually,
Hmm.
because we've gone very quickly with
Yes.
600 stores, that was the time when I go, let's pull the
Hmm.
handbrake, let's relook at this
Yes.
business, and what we have to do next to make sure that we are building something that's sustainable, and we are not just, well, we are serious about the business
Okay.
essentially, right? So we want to find the right team and all those. So I started going search around for previous people that I met, like for example in Philippines, which we used to run a BPO business for 38 years. Met up with a couple of people in the process as well. Started thinking about how does the likes of Facebook and Google make
Yes.
money, right? And then you start realizing it's about marketing, right? It's about driving ads and all the discovery. So in the process of doing that, we're looking for the tech
Hmm.
partner. I then also got involved into build up relationship with a lot of CEO in different media agencies. Started understanding how media
Nice
agency
work.
work,
Yeah.
how media
Yes.
buying work as well. So it's a lot of
Uh-huh.
accumulation of knowledge. So when you build an ecosystem, you're essentially what we are empowering the
Hmm.
merchants, right?
Yep.
Offline merchants. And then we are then bringing them, allowing them to be on different
Hmm.
social and messaging platform, which is then
Yes.
essentially free, right? And highly optimized.
So in relation to this, just so everyone's aware, we're talking about BOTTY now. So BOTTY is a platform you launched about, 3 years ago? Is that correct? Yeah,
Yeah, two and a
yeah,
half years,
no,
three
very, very
years
good.
ago. Yep.
I love your questions, Cary. All your questions are pretty inspiring when you're looking at this stuff. You sort of mentioned how does Facebook and Google make money, and that
Yes.
allowed you to explore marketing, and they're really big questions. And how do I impact merchants globally, and all these big questions you're exploring. And I
Yep.
think the bigger the question we look at, the either more inspired or you'll start looking at different areas that you didn't even think of. Now, I imagine you weren't looking at marketing until you asked that question, right?
It's really building the pillars of
Yes.
success, right? So if you say, I mean, rather than paying lip service to it, it's really being hands on and understanding the ecosystem. What does
Hmm.
it consist, and how do you build a platform for growth for the offline merchants that you want to
Yes.
enable,
Yep.
right, and empower as well. So you look at, you have the merchant, you have the social media messaging
Uh huh.
apps and all that. So we build up a lot of relationship there, and then understanding what what do they want as well, what do they need. So it's sort of building a win-win value proposition, right? So you're not going to just go to Facebook and say, hey, look, give me all this access to the API, but you're going to tell them, say, look, because I want to bring offline merchant to then drive more advertising and use your platform more, because that's
Yeah,
how it
correct.
works, right? Then the next thing, then you go, okay, now look, so now you allow the merchant to create visibility and over social media
Uh
and
huh.
messaging apps. What's next, right? So they need to be able to collect payment. So then that was the that was the concurrently I was building a partnership, I was trying to, using LinkedIn to connect with people in the payment world, and one of the most well appreciated is this chap that is he's Korean
Okay.
American, so he's Richard. Richard has been in the PayPal. He's head of
Uh huh.
payments previously. He just left PayPal, I think about a year
Yep.
plus ago. So when I connected with him, he was still in PayPal. He was
Uh
head
huh.
of payments. So he tried to cheat out with people and try to connect with people, and then he was one of those people who
Yes.
replied me, right? And then he's based in Singapore. So through him, I learned a lot about payments, right? It's like you just have to
Yep.
keep trying, right? It's like the KFC Colonel Sanders, right? I mean, he's broke. He tried. He has got a recipe. He went, and then finally he got hit, right? Somebody appreciated him. The business became what it is today,
Yeah.
KFC, right? But so the same thing. You're gonna have situations where people read your message, but they're not gonna
Oh,
reply
there's
you,
going to be
right?
many of those situations, right? But you need to put yourself out there. If you've got
Yes,
a concept you believe in, and at this stage you're learning a lot, so you're reaching out and trying to understand markets better. And I think that's a really
yes,
good insight because I think sometimes we can push out there and try and sell what we're doing, but if we approach things from the perspective of trying to learn and get some understanding, just connect to people and be people, that can deliver better benefits than
yes.
just trying to sell what you do all the time, right? Yeah.
Yet, I mean, the mission and the purpose has to be
Mm.
very powerful, right? Because once you have that, it's like it's something that's constantly pushing
Yes.
you forward. Because there are times that you just get so tired because you're trying to connect with people and they're
Yep.
not responsive, and then you go, oh, am I going to give up,
We all
right?
ask
And
that
then
question.
then you go like, okay, why am
Yeah.
I? Yeah, so you go,
Yeah.
why am I doing this, right? Okay, I'm here to enable
Yeah.
merchants globally. Okay, this is big enough for me, right? I want to do this. So you just
Yeah.
get back
Nice.
on it,
Yeah.
right? So do what you need to do, jump in a cold shower,
Yeah.
get to the gym, do whatever you need to do, get yourself back on
Uh-huh.
track again, right? So dealing with all the payment world was a different world
Mm.
altogether again, right? So you gotta tell them why they should do a deal with you, why they should integrate with you, that go or give you the API and all that. So you got the Wirecard, the First Data, you got the Stripe, you got all these people constantly you just have to do it. And sometimes some people that you met
Yeah.
18 months ago who doesn't believe in you, but because where you are now is just turning around, they go like, holy crap, this makes sense,
Yeah.
right? And but it's
That's
fine,
okay.
right?
It is what it
So you
is
keep the
because
relation.
at
Yeah.
that point in time, it was probably too early, and they just you could be another of
Yes.
the 100 people that contact them, and it's very challenging at that time,
Yes.
right? And you don't have anything to show
Yes.
or results in what you're doing. People don't pay attention. We
Yep.
all get attacked from different angles, from different, and it
Yes.
becomes so much information. People trying to connect, and I get that, but it doesn't matter, does it? It's in the end, it wasn't right timing, but now it might be. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's things that comes like you get quick
Yeah.
win, you go, yeah, I just want this. But some things just come after 18 months and you go like,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah. Correct.
patience, right? It's just like
Uh-huh.
purely patience. The thing here is this: you pick the right people
Mm.
to talk to, right? So then you start evolving and you start sharing, and people start talking to each other. They start saying that, hey, this guy, if I talk to Cary, like he shares stuff that is relevant to the industry that you're in, right? So you're value
Yes.
adding to them before they actually value
Get
add
it.
to you.
And that's it's a massive point because if you can value add to people that you're trying to gain influence over or get in their circle,
Yes.
it's much easier than you just trying to, like I said, sell them something. Yeah, value adding is a
Yep.
way to go. I
Yep.
love your mindset and I love the way you approach what you do. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, in terms of value adding, good idea. Another great idea from the
Yep.
podcast.
Yeah. So you got like three of the
Yes.
four pillars, right? So the last pillar was just looking at um what how can you then provide the last mile, right? So we started talking to a lot of people, gone to US, talked to Grubhub, talked to Postmates, but eventually came back down to
Uh-huh.
Asia and then managed to convince
Yeah.
Grab. So Grab is like a Southeast Asia, Uber Southeast Asia. So they acquired the Uber business in
Yeah,
Southeast
nice.
Asia, right? So then, yeah, so we did a deal with them. We basically then integrate with Grab
Okay.
Express, and so allowing within our own solution without having going outside the solution, integrated to Grab Express, be able to deliver right the
Hmm.
last mile for food or for retail, through the integration that we have with Grab Express. So now we are going into different last mile providers as well, integrating with them. One of the conversation that we're having is like Drive Yellow over in Australia as well, and then talking to a lot more people as well, right? So it's that. So once you have the merchant, you have the medium that the merchant can showcase the product and the
Yes.
solution, right, or the
Hmm.
services. Then you have the payments, and then you have the last mile, or the last mile can be various platform, right? So these four pillars then strengthen the platform for the merchant, enabling them to grow their business from offline to
Yeah, and
online.
that's huge, right? And you are then in a position to impact
Yeah.
merchants globally as you grow and expand what you're doing. Yeah, very,
Yes.
very cool.
Yes. So that's sort of like what we've been focusing on, and through that journey of building out a lot of
Hmm.
merchant partners around
Yeah.
the world, and a lot of them become very close
Yes.
acquaintance. Like we're talking about stuff, and then you're talking about how do you bring the business to the next level with the data and all that. So the next step is really creating a automated bot solution that sort of understand the
Okay.
business, right? And then be able to then advise the business, like even the most relevant to the day to day would be like saying that, hey, you know what, Cary has been coming to the store for the past 3 weeks, and been every week has been coming like five
Hmm.
times, right? Um, the bot tells you about your business, about your customers, to allow you to take immediate action, right? So whether you're going to send a reward, whether you're going to send a message, so it's all plug in, so you don't have to go somewhere else, because it's like a full ecosystem on its own, right? So you're able to communicate with the customers, because that customer always communicate with you through messenger, to Viber, through Line, or whichever messaging tool, or even through email, right? So you can
Yeah,
communicate with them
nice.
again. So
Mhm.
to to reward
So
the customers as well. Yeah. So it also gives.
is that touching upon
Yeah.
obviously customer loyalty to understand clearly if you've got a bot, you need some
Yes.
loyalty at the merchant, at the payment facility. So
Yeah.
dig in a bit more
Yeah.
about what you actually do at BOTTY. So you clearly got some integrations with Facebooks of the world and taking payments and things along those lines. How is it
Yeah.
actually delivered in that world about automating? Am I paying? How am I paying? What am I doing when I'm at a store? As a customer, I'm talking about here.
Well, so as a customer at the store, so then that becomes, because we focus on three key things for the
Okay.
merchant, right? We focus on helping them drive
Yes.
transaction, engagement, and retention, right? So commerce, a means of them to engage with the customers, and the last one is more loyalty, which is then the
Okay.
retention portion. So with that place, effectively, when somebody comes in, so they're using the platform, right? They've depending on
Yes.
country again. So Australia will be different. In Asia, people are very used to QR code. So it will be a QR code that's true, like on your messaging account, or you probably screenshot it. It becomes like one of your QR code. You get into store, you
Okay.
can scan it. So once you know you, even for offline transaction, you can still
Yeah,
be
get it.
rewarded. So it's sort of KYC, right? So we work with
And
big
KYC, for anyone that doesn't know, is know your customer, basically. Yes.
yes. Yeah, so we constantly pushing the barrier, like working with like Stripe and because Stripe now rolled out the Stripe terminal, physical
Yes.
terminal at the store. So we're trying to explore ways of integrating with it. So even when somebody pay by the credit card, because the card is then registered, over on Stripe as well, and then that gives us the more inclusive, inclusive understanding of your
Yeah,
customer,
perfect.
right? So then you can reward them. So when they come pay offline, purchase items and all that. So be able to group all those
So
things together and understand your customers better, be able to reward them. And also be able to send them promotion that is relevant, right? So not just, broadcasting and blanket right over. You're basically sending a promotion that's relevant to the consumer. So it's a one-to-one
yeah, it's a one-to-one
ability.
conversation. So, and you talk a bit about
Yes.
ecosystem, and clearly your objective is to mold and merge online and offline, and have that ability for merchants to be able to do that, so
Yeah.
then they can communicate with their consumers on all levels, not just online on its own, and then offline on a completely different level potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Alibaba play over in China, right? So Alibaba has been trying to do that outside of China. I think because the market is
Yes.
fragmented, so it's a bit harder for them. So it's how can we do that by first um, not trying to be them, but at the same time trying to build on the platform that's very
Yes.
localized, that's widely used. And thanks to Facebook, because of the fact that around the world, except from China, right? But around the world, most of the businesses before they have a website, they have a Facebook business
Okay.
page first because
Yeah,
it's
it's
easy to
easy.
set
They
up,
know how to
right?
use it,
You
right?
get the
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
template, it helps you go through. So because of the ease, businesses just go to Facebook business page and set up a business page before they have their own website, right? So then the question now is, can we do the same thing for our
Okay.
platform, right? Can we then build something similar? So when somebody has a business page, use our bot plugin, upload the CSV file, Excel spreadsheet, or if they want to do integration, they can call us directly. We have an API. We
Yes.
can integrate with their existing API and so on and so forth, right? The idea is really to be a plug and play and pull in all transactional data from all point, right? So physical ports, that's one, on the payment
Yep.
side as well, right? And any other third party that they're integrated with, right? So pull in all the data with all the consolidated data, be able to give real time updates to the stakeholders, right? So having the bot be able to send messages out, to different stakeholders within the business and saying that, hey, look, based on your trend, this is what's happening. So it becomes more business intelligent, but you have to start from
Yeah.
somewhere, right? And starting from somewhere is really, driving the whole digital transformation for the business and moving towards internal. Then we'll gain the inside
Yeah,
out
no, like you
approach.
said, you need to start somewhere. If you can start plugging into all facets of data, then you can eventually
Yes,
build intelligence on top of that and start building some algorithms behind it, some
yes,
AI behind it, however you want to approach it. But you can do that.
yes,
But you need all
yes.
access to all data
Yeah, a
points,
bit.
otherwise it's not really intelligent, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I've been studying and watching, reading books, and watching YouTube of AI, machine learning, understanding. And the most recent one I've been diving into is Microsoft Power
Yeah.
Apps. So it's
Hmm.
automation and all that. So I've been inspired by Satya as well. The current CEO
Yes.
at Microsoft,
Yeah, he
amazing
is.
guy. What he's
Yeah.
done. Um, yeah, so been reading a lot, been
Uh-huh.
watching YouTube, by understanding how it works and how do you bring this
Hmm.
together, right? Because how do you just bring in machine learning and AI as you move on, they make it very contextual. Contextual is
Hmm.
very important because there's no AI that can come in and just tell you your
No.
business is not doing well. We're not understanding the necessary data
Correct.
provided,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so I mean, would love to move down that journey and really empowering and creating this whole platform to allow business to have from offline to
Uh-huh.
online, and then at the same time having that whole AI and machine learning, right? I mean, this decade of this new decade that we are on now is the decade of AI and
It
machine
is. It's
learning,
a new
right? It's
decade
gonna
of something
transform.
else, and that is really where we're at. And how far it goes will be interesting to see where we end up in 2030. Looking back, what has actually happened. Yeah, that's my perception.
It's gonna be huge.
I don't think anyone in this world really knows what the end game is. It's always an interesting conversation around what AI, robotics, what the end game is, and how the impact it will impact our society. If it's done well, it will impact us in a great way. If it's done not so well, it will serve
Yes.
corporate and become a big challenge for a lot of people. So I'll be interested to see how it all plays out. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I guess I just had a conversation this morning about
Yeah.
this as well, right? So, with one of my founding partners that I brought on board onto
Okay.
BOTTY as well. So it's sort of like when I first started building this BOTTY company by myself, founded it
Yes.
myself, then I started looking out and who are the people that I want
Uh
to
huh.
bring on board, right? When I call them founding partners. So one of them is
Yes.
Andrew Reddy. So Andrew Reddy has been well, he's now semi-retired over
Okay.
in Melbourne, but he used to be living over in Asia, and he is a great entrepreneur, and he built out brands, franchise, like from TGI Fridays, Italianis, and created his own brands and grew his business, and then sold his business to a private equity
Okay.
firm, and that's where he
Yeah, get it.
semi-retired. Then but he also appreciate the whole inside approach. It's more
Hmm.
about the people, how do I
Yes.
empower the people. So it's sort of bringing the same mindset people into the fold. And then next was bringing Peter Rodwell, which is ex McDonald's, been in McDonald's for 38 years. He's
Okay.
Aussie,
Yep.
right? And then but he was running. But last position 4 years ago he left
Uh-huh.
McDonald's, and then last position he was the APAC and Middle East
Hmm.
and Africa APNEA president. So bring him on board is it's also knowing that he's very appreciative of
Hmm.
technology, how technology can help the business and the people in the business as well. So bringing on board is looking at things bigger
Understand.
scale,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
right, and also through his
Hmm.
connection and his context and understanding of the
Hmm.
business world, right? So getting him on board and getting my tech partner on board, which is then Freddie Mata. So he has been around BPO business over in the Philippines. Now, why am I talking about this? Because it's more brain
Okay.
context to it, right? Because now if we say that we're gonna empower or enable the merchant globally, offline merchant globally, starting from the restaurant to the retail and all that, it's to bring the people who have the right
Yes, and
experience.
that's a massive point that you raised there. We shot a podcast a few days back, actually, around this conversation
Mm,
and bringing people that have the right experience and how do you pick a team or how do you pick advisors. And I think you've really covered
yes,
that off, and you've got some tech people, you've got people in industry that have done this before, you've got people that have what you call a Rolodex back in the day, or they can open up their phone and
yes,
call some pretty high up there people that can open up connections for you. So
yep,
very interesting in
yep.
terms of what you're sort of putting together there. Hmm.
Yeah, it's good to always do that because once you have
Hmm.
that, then moving towards AI machine learning in this
Yes.
decade, for example, this 10-year roadmap, right? It's truly bringing that solution, and because you have the contextual
Uh-huh.
understanding, you're building from small scale to
Yes.
big scale, right? So you're enabling offline merchant that is as big as a global company to the smallest and the smaller to the small
Hmm.
business operator. So you're tying that um that knot across, right? And saying that how can I build a software that's scalable, that can be used by enterprise, and can be used by small business? So that's where we're sitting on it, and and it's really working. So you're just constantly building, right? So you're
Hmm.
building capabilities, and you're going like, okay, look, let's not be just pure tech play. You just really need to understand, the business requirements. So managing all this different expertise, and managing the
Yep.
tech side, and managing the need for for the industry, I think that has been really rewarding. And thanks to mobile phones and cloud
Yes.
computing, right? You can talk to people any part of the world anytime you want. You just have to either stay out 24
Yeah,
hours.
if you stay up all day, that's
Yeah.
fine. So, Kerry, how big's the team now? So, where are you at? How big's your development team? How big? Do you have a sales
Yeah.
force? Where are
So
you
we
at?
have the yeah. So the developers, well, the onboarding team and developers, about
Okay. Yeah.
25 of them
Nice.
now. So we're looking at really building a solution that's very automated, and using the different pillars that we so the pillars that we built, right? The four
Yes.
pillars that we built is also very
Hmm.
self-sustainable for us, because with the merchant, if you deal with a
Uh
big
huh.
brand, right, in one country, and because it's a global brand, it cascades to the
Next
next
country,
to the next
correct.
country to the
Yes.
next country, yeah, because they start
Hmm.
talking to each other, right? So that's the merchant. From merchant, we get a lot of leads as well, a lot of leads from there, and then also from the social media platform. Because once you start showing that there's a lot of transaction that you're bringing, or usage that you're
Uh
bringing
huh.
to their platform, they also then start connecting you with
So
the
they
right
open up
people
angles
also,
for
right?
you and actual customers. Yeah, very
Yes.
smart.
Then
Yeah.
yeah, then the payment
Uh-huh.
world as well, right? The payment goes, okay, you just brought in another solution, and then now we are driving more
Uh-huh.
payment through our gateway or through our wallet. Let me just also
Yes.
connect you with some of the
Very good.
merchants there, right? And then the last mile happens the
Mm.
same way, right? So this value, that once you create this whole
Yes.
flywheel, that's where
Yeah.
he's sitting, and that sort of minimize the
Uh-huh.
requirement of us having employing like a bunch of people
Get
on
it.
ground, right? So how do you do what Facebook is doing
Mm-hmm.
when it started, right? And then at the same time, how do you then change the model to being a Salesforce model, where you have a lot of partners working in different countries, taking your solution and
Yes.
localizing it, right? And being like sort of like a local consultant for the merchant in the
Mm-hmm.
local country, right? Or Zero, for that example, Zero, the accounting software, accounting software does the same thing, right? So locally, they have a lot of partners. These partners then are the one that helps the business or the merchant fully maximize the potential of the solution as well. So that's how
Very
we're
good.
looking at it, because the lesser, well, the dream is always this, right? How can you have 65 employees like
Yes.
WhatsApp, right? Be worth 19
Yeah, it's
billion US
crazy the
dollars,
world we
right?
live in, isn't it? It would never have happened 50 years ago. It's not possible, but yeah, times have changed.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's how
Mm.
do you do that, right? So the perseverance of, you sort of have to
Yes.
persevere and say that, look, okay, don't hire salespeople, don't hire
Yeah.
salespeople, right? Go, like,
And look at other
like
ways.
sort
Yeah.
of like keep,
No, it's a very interesting
yeah,
point, and you've
it's always
obviously
going to
learning
be.
from key pivotal businesses throughout the last 10, 15 years and what they've done. So you've spoken about WhatsApp's, Facebook's, Alibaba's, Amazon, and you're picking and learning. Yeah, so
Amazon, yep.
your research stems across all these businesses. So it's really good to see the amount. You're very detailed orientated, clearly, and you dig in. You want to know as much as you possibly can, and I see you love it. You love a challenge, and I think that's one of the things I'm getting out of this conversation. And something, yeah.
Yeah,
Tell us a bit about what
the,
drives you. So, why do you do what you do?
the thing that my wife often get annoyed with about me, it's constantly asking
Okay.
why,
Yeah.
right? Because it's very important for me to know why, how, and
Okay.
what. The how and what is
Yes.
easy, right? The why is always sort of like the
Hmm.
anchor, right? The why keeps you moving, and the why about me is always my purpose. I'm driven towards very much like, how do you enable people
Okay.
around, right? But you can't just enable
No.
everybody, right? So you go back to, again, what are your experiences,
Hmm.
what drives you, right? What can you truly bring value to? And you look at it and you go, is the
Hmm.
offline merchants, right? Because I've been there before, I've done that before. And these are the people that these are the people also, these are the these are the businesses that's hiring a
Hmm.
lot of people. So there's some element of just contributing to
Understand.
economy,
Yeah.
right? how do you contribute, how do you make jobs
Hmm.
sustainable, right? I mean, that sort of stuff. So like, I mean, if you ask me about the whole solution stack
Yes.
that we built, we even gone down to building, like learning management
Okay.
system, and getting into education is a thing that
Yeah.
I really love, because enabling somebody, it's sort of like sharing and
Yeah, it
educating, right?
is. It's a
Somebody
passion of mine
else,
too. I love
right?
education space. We've within our core
Yeah.
business area, and we've built education simulation tools along the journey, and just love that space and how you can actually give back as well, and impact people
Yeah.
differently.
I'll
Yeah,
share I'll share you the next
yeah,
time round of the learning
yeah.
management system. The whole platform is
Uh-huh.
inspired by Khan Academy,
Oh, very.
Shao
Yep, yep.
Kahn, yeah, who built Khan
Yes.
Academy. So we sort of took that and we built it into a messaging
Okay.
play. So if yeah, effectively, like if your first day come, your first day at work, you just sign up to be a
Yes.
barista, for example. Once you get back home, we send you a link. You click into the link. It can be on Slack. It can be on Messenger as well. It started showing you a short
Hmm.
clip of video, like what's in how do you make it as a latte, for example, right? And then it shows you the short video. It starts asking you
Okay. Nice.
questions,
Yeah.
multiple choice questions. So based on the
Uh-huh.
answer that you click, right, it goes to the next
Hmm.
different question, right? So it's all about mastery level. So you sort of know that what's the mastery level of that individual on this particular product, and then it starts moving on. So it helps because the higher mastery level, the better what you
Mm.
produce, right? So yeah, so
Oh, that's
it's yeah.
exactly
So we've done
right. The
quite a
more
fair bit
you
of work
know,
in
the
that.
more you master, the better output, right? So, and I see where you enjoy
Mm,
and
mm.
I get that from you, and I see that you're all about learning clearly. So that's probably one of your key values is learning, and I think you'd be learning, reading, and doing that every day. I imagine from the type of conversation we just had. Yeah,
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 from the time when your
yes,
eyes open to
yeah.
before it shuts. So podcasts work very well for me because there are time that you just don't want to read anymore.
Listen,
You just want to
yeah,
listen,
yeah, yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
that works
very, very
very well.
cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's dive back a
yeah.
little bit. Now, I want to paint a picture. Um, Now, I don't know if you do any advisory and helping startups. I think if you do, I'm not sure if you do a little bit, but anyway, let's dig in. So I'm someone in the industry. It doesn't matter what age I am. I've got a concept, an idea about adding value to my industry or in a different industry. What is the first step? You've mentioned research. Is that generally where you recommend people starting, learning, understanding what's going on in the industry and where they can actually impact?
Yeah, so you have to be sort of like a domain
Yes.
expert, right? So if you're gonna disrupt
Hmm.
or value add to a particular
Yes.
industry, you just have to understand that industry. So become like a
Okay.
domain expert. Not 100%, you can't get to
Correct.
perfection, right? But at least you go out there, you
Hmm.
comb the world, right? Today there's no excuse at all because you have the Google search, you have all this stuff that's on your hand on
Correct.
your phone. There's just so many things
Hmm.
that you can reach out to, right? And then once you've done your research sufficient enough for you to then get
Hmm.
on with it. So I think that's step number one, right? So getting the research done, being knowledgeable, so then when you start talking to investors or you start talking to your other partners, or you're trying to find the
Yes.
next partner, you're making sense to them, right? You're not just every fairy, but you're just telling them the right amount of details, sufficient information to make sure that you're embarking onto a startup that has got
Yeah, get it.
potential,
So
right?
the next steps, I've got research. Now, clearly what path you've gone down is bringing in co-founders or people that have the experience that you don't. How you mentioned you approached it from LinkedIn. How would you recommend someone that has no connection? What would they do if I'm a non-tech founder, I've got this concept, I understand the market, I know what problem I'm trying to solve. What would you recommend if they're trying to find how to build the tech, for example?
Yeah, so building a tech is it's you gotta understand how does an engineer um take in
Okay,
information,
interesting
right?
point.
So
Yes.
yeah, so you gotta be able to articulate in the way that the
Uh-huh.
software engineer that you're talking to, you gotta be able to articulate well that they can accept, they
Yes.
understand it, and they
Hmm.
appreciate it, and they see value
Mm.
in them coming in as a
Okay.
co-founder, right? Now, so the moment once you start going into a space or you articulate in a way that they don't understand, then you're basically not not winning them over,
You're going to
right? So
lose them. So,
that is,
what's some points there? How do you break down? Because clearly you've got a big vision, right? Now, if you went to a tech guy and just talked about big vision, um, yes, you might get them to understand, but they're generally tech guys are more detailed, more analytical, and more, all
yes,
right, how do we do
yes,
X, Y, Z? What are the
yes.
steps here? That's generally how they approach it. So, what would you do in that conversation?
I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend fully, but then I do a lot of self
Okay.
study in those
Okay.
areas, knowing what's the latest
Yes.
tech, and knowing like some of the big company they even
Yes.
pivot from one the one programming
Hmm.
language they're using, and then pivot
Hmm.
to another one because now they're
Yes.
scaling very fast. So by understanding all this and by telling this to the engineer, you basically setting the precedent where he says that, look, okay, we might start with this
Uh huh.
programming language, but because we grow so fast, we might have to just move to the next language because you want to pick the right
Yes.
person, right? You don't want to pick a person who goes, no, you know what, we're gonna do this language and
Yeah,
this
get it.
only, right?
That's
But
not necessarily going to deliver you the best outcome or your customers the best outcome. That's right. Yeah.
yes, it's not about the language they are
No.
programming on, right? It's not about the cloud solution that you're
Correct.
sitting on, right? It there shouldn't be
Mm.
biases because when you're biased, things doesn't go
Oh, you
well,
know
right?
what you know, right? And from a bias perspective,
Yes.
that means you just stick to what you know, and that's more of a comfort thing, right? So I'm
Mhm.
comfortable doing this, and yeah, like you said, technology continues to move on. It's ever changing, ever evolving, and if you're biased and you're still biased 10 years later, you're miles behind everyone else because everything's shifted and changed. Like web technology these days, we used to do HTML web pages, then we
Yeah.
moved to some basic JavaScript. Now you got the Angulars, the Reacts of the world, and all this different
Yep. Yeah.
technology, and it keeps shifting. And what's next? Nobody knows.
Yes.
And it could be a new
Yes.
technology pops up this year, and then everyone starts using it. So you don't know, and you have to be agile in your approach to delivery.
Yeah, and then and the IP comes from the whole workflow, the
Yes,
process, that you build. So moving, having the capabilities of documenting that, right, then allows you to move from one language to the next
correct.
language, right? This so that's
Hmm.
the most important. It's what is the domain, right? And how you're
Hmm.
automating the domain as well. It's very similar to many other, not just about technology startup, but even in building a restaurant or building a retail shop and all those, right? How do you make a difference? I think that's essentially key. So being able to articulate very well to the engineering team is very important if you're talking about
Yeah,
tech
get it.
startup.
So you would recommend someone that is non-tech to really start educating and learning at least how to communicate.
Yep.
Because, yeah, like you said, if
Yes.
you've got this big vision and you're talking big vision, you're never going to get the outcome because you need to understand that technology, people delivering tech need to know the detail. They need to
Yep.
understand the detail. And if
Yep.
you're not willing to get there, you're probably going to need some help to get that out of you, really, if you're a tech founder. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's like it's like constantly, I've chat with my eldest daughter, and we talk about the big picture and all that, right? So it's sort of building a thousand pieces of
Yes.
puzzle, right? So when there's 1,000 pieces, without
Yeah.
the cover, without the picture in front of you, you wouldn't be able to
Correct.
build it, right? It's gonna be
Yeah.
so hard, right? So you have the big picture, but you need the little
Uh-huh.
details to come in, right? The little pieces that falls in place for you to build up the whole plan. And that's where hiring the right people, bringing the
Hmm.
right founders, and putting them together, and being able to constantly reinforce and articulate the goal, the mission here, the purpose is very important. So you feel like a broken
Yeah.
record sometimes, but that's how founders are
Yeah.
meant to be, right? Constantly you just have to
Yes.
repeat yourself, you just
Yeah.
keep going again and again
Yeah.
and again and again. Yeah, and then
Well, that's important. You
yep,
have to live
so
the dream and you have to inspire the people along the way because you won't bring on, like you
yes,
said, you won't bring, if you're looking to bring on co-founders, they're not going to come on board if you can't inspire them. You're not going to bring on customers if you can't inspire
yes,
them. You're not going to bring on investors if you can't inspire them. They're not going to bring on any partners. So
yep,
you need to stand, know your vision, know where you're headed, know how to articulate that and in a succinct way that people are going to get it and want to be a part of that journey because you can't do it alone. And clearly, you've got a team of
yep,
25 developers, engineers. What about the rest of the
yep.
business? How much, what in supporting that? What do you have around it? Because clearly that's, you're not trying to build that capacity too much. You're trying to keep that pretty nimble from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, so I think the next step is
Yeah.
really building building the capabilities on in terms of machine learning
Okay.
and AI as well, and then looking at the different stacks. So talking to
Mhm.
Microsoft, talking to Google, and looking at the different possibilities. Going in depth in terms of understanding the capabilities on the platform as well, and then at the same time connecting with people over in San
Okay.
Francisco as well, right? Like people who build amazing machine learning and AI, connecting with them and trying to work
Yeah,
with
no,
them
very,
too.
very good. So always be learning would be one of my tips that you've pretty basically
Yep.
talked about today. So your biggest tips for non-tech founders: research. Do your research. Don't be prepared to learn about areas that you know nothing about. To be able to talk the
Yep.
conversation, you need to understand what you're talking about and who you're talking to, and then also, yeah, be prepared to put yourself out there. I think you mentioned earlier that basically you send message after message with little response, and then 18 months later it might turn to something. But be prepared to be persistent and patient as well. I think that's some of the key things that came out of today's conversations. Um,
Yeah, or the next thing, just get a job,
yeah,
right? In the organization, in the
yeah,
domain, right? Just to
that's another
understand.
option too. And I think that's a really good point. If you have a concept or an idea and a concept, and you don't have the time to do the research, yeah, like you said, get a job in that space, understand it through another
Yep.
organization. Very good point for someone who's trying to impact an
Yeah.
industry.
If
Yeah,
I if I in my
yeah,
twenties, right? I would definitely, because I used to do that in my
okay,
twenties as well. It's sometimes just to get a job in the
yes,
industry, just to understand what are the
hmm,
opportunities, right? How can it be
okay,
better, right? So it's not to scrutinize that the business, but to look at opportunities. And one of the people that I would definitely do that, right? If I ever get a, well, now I'm 40ish, but if I'm 26 or
yes,
25, I'll probably get a job with Richard Branson, right? And then
yeah,
understanding, like, I mean, that
yeah,
guy is
he's
just
amazing.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
In every single business, he's launching his new
Yes,
cruise ship, right? I mean,
everything. There's always a new business, but with every successful, there's
yeah,
10 failed. So he's a guy that
yeah,
tries and he gives everything a go. And
yes,
I've heard one of his best, the way one of his sayings is, "Let's just give it a go," and he can understand why
yes,
he is how he is. He's prepared to try, fail, prepared to try and succeed. So it's important if you want to live
yeah,
that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Mm.
important to do that, and that's why, like, there's so many opportunity out there. There's just so many ways you can
Mhm.
reach out, to people, and getting out, putting yourself out there, and not having the fear of
Yes.
failing, right? And not having the fear of hearing
Oh,
no.
the no comes around and you're going to
Yeah,
hear no, and it's generally probably got nothing to do with you. Um, like you said, you got a
yes,
no 18 months ago, and then all of a sudden it's a let's talk now. It happens, things change, maybe timing's wrong. Yeah.
yeah. I wish, when in my 20s, we have that connectivity that we
Mm.
have right now. It's the world is such that now people who are coming out from university and or colleges and all that, for them to actually get their message
Yes.
out there, it's so
Mm.
easy now, right? I mean, it's just constantly trying and
It's
trying and
being
trying, and you can get there faster.
correct, and it's just being prepared, or you're prepared to do that and put yourself out there. And I think if you're willing to do that, really you've got so much opportunity, like you said. But if you're not willing to, then you're not going to take advantage of the opportunity you have right now. We connected on LinkedIn, knew nothing about each other. I read a bit about your
Yep,
profile, connected, thought had an interesting background, and all of a sudden we're sharing a podcast today. So, and you got clearly
yep,
great experience and pretty inspiring background and story to share. So there's so many brilliant people out there in the world, and we've got access to them. And you living in Perth, I'd
yep,
never have met you if it wasn't, yeah, for LinkedIn, for example. It would never happen. So yeah, we've got
yep.
an amazing ability to connect these days, and it's, yeah, quite powerful when you think about it. Yeah.
Yep, it is. It is. I mean, I'm constantly telling my kids that, look, you guys are living a
Yes.
new world. Like, especially the younger ones. They're watching this Dan TDM, which is on YouTube, which teach them how to play
Yes.
games and all that. I told them, I said, look at that, right? So driving that the knowledge to them, and at the same time having them asking me question over dinner, like, so, Daddy, like, what's a business? How do you buy
Oh,
shares,
interesting.
right? I mean, having an 8-year-old asking you that
Yes.
question, and you knew that you touch on a point that's very
Uh-huh.
important, because you ask them the question while you're watching Dan TD and teaching you how to play
Yes.
Minecraft, right? Are you improving in your Minecraft? They say
Uh-huh.
yes. So then, like I say, that's what
Mm.
you need to do, right? This is how you can enable other people, share your experience and share
Uh-huh.
what you have done, and then using the social media platform out there, be able to communicate with people, right? There's always going to
Of
be pros
course.
and cons, but just look at the positivity, being positive, and looking at how you can reach out. It's I think where we are now. The world
Yes.
is changing, and there's going to be a huge opportunity
Yeah,
out there.
no, definitely. One last question, Cary. What's a day in the
Yeah.
life of Cary look like? Explain what it looks like to people listening, being a founder of many businesses and now in a tech space. What's a day in the life of Cary look like? What do you do day to day? Yeah.
Day to day, get out in the morning, jump into all the different apps that I have that is giving me information in the industry that I'm
Okay.
focusing on now,
Uh-huh.
right? So be it the F&B industry, be it retail, be it FMCG, technology, like a whole span of stuff, right? So getting all that information, talking to the relevant people in a day, like today, for example. I want to talk to people who are in the F&B industry in different countries. I started
Okay.
connecting with them, and then so like keeping up with some of the
Hmm.
partners that we have and merchants that is on our platform, creating a conversation, looking at business where they are, what they're trying to achieve, and align our
Very
solution
good.
towards that. Um, and yeah, I think that's and talking to the
Yes.
family. Yes, definitely when I'm around, because I travel around a lot. I spend 10 months out of the 12 months traveling. So whenever I'm home, I try to, as much as possible, explain to them what I do, because constantly they're getting a bit confused, because from a restaurant owner to being tech, right? They used to be walking into my restaurant and going
This
like,
is Dad's
this is
business.
Daddy's
Yeah.
restaurant, right? Then now it goes like, is that what you're doing now? Like, tech is very different. So trying to bring that out, and then being able to hear from them what they say is also very, it's also a part of the
Beautiful.
business, right? So understanding how the next generation think about this. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So it's a lot of, well, very selfishly put, right? It's very purpose
Understand.
driven. That's how my
Okay.
life is, and I just feel that in the day I need to do like these
Uh-huh.
4 things,
Four things
right?
did you say?
To know that
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 4 things that I know that I've picked it, right? I've known, like, okay,
Yes.
research, talk to all the partners, right? Talk to all the domain people who are using our solution,
Yep.
talk to all of them, right? As
Hmm.
much as possible. And then
Well
lastly,
done.
the family, right? So you
Yep.
got 4 very important things that once you're done that, you know that, okay, the day is done,
Awesome.
right? Time to shut your
Oh,
eyes and
it's
go
a
to
really
bed.
good point that you raise. I think we can overcomplicate what we do, but in reality, we can chunk it down into 3 or 4 things a day. And if you're consistent with that and you're persistent with that, you will continue to grow in the direction you are. And obviously, you started out,
Yep.
what, 2.5, 3 years ago at nothingness, really. It was a concept and an idea.
Yep.
And you picked up 600 stores. And today, how many merchants do you actually have on your platform right now?
Yeah, so now we have more than 2,000. So some merchants have multiple
Yes.
stores, some merchants
Yep.
have lesser stores. So all in all, if you talk about number of stores, we're about
Yeah.
2,500 in the next year of both. And then there's a lot more coming on board this year because of the automated onboarding
Very
platform
good.
that we built.
So in a space of
Yep.
under 3 years, you've grown a team
Yep.
to 25 engineers, developers, brought on over 2,500 merchants, and
Yep.
basically coming from nothing. So it's pretty inspiring as to what is possible in the marketplace if you're willing to research every day and know your market and basically commit to a higher purpose and a big vision and a big goal. How do I impact merchants globally? So pretty profound as to what you shared today, and I hope everyone listening got a lot out of that. Thank you, Cary. Really appreciate you taking the time to share in your busy day and schedule as to your journey on this process and how you moved from a restaurant owner to now in the tech space impacting merchants.
Cool. Thank you for your time too.
No, I really appreciate it. Cheers, Cary.
Yeah. Thanks.